everybody. Travis with Unique Events. Welcome to the show. Today is our episode 1, subject 1, first show we're putting out. Before we haven't had any input on what you guys want to hear about yet. We haven't had any advice. We're just picking a subject and we're going to talk about it and we're just going to see what happens. So it could be interesting. Hopefully this is the worst show we make and every one of them is better after this. But despite that, we're going to have some fun with it and see what comes of it. So Riley's here.
Hello, hello.
He's going to be chiming in with his 2 cents on all of our subjects. Usually he'll be reading off your questions that you submit over. Riley, what is our first question?
Drum roll, please. This one's kind of a touchy one, a tricky one. It has a lot of details surrounding this and something that we see a lot as DJs. So our first topic is, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of inviting kids to a wedding? Take it away, Travis.
So, something that's near and dear to our hearts. I have DJ'd weddings for probably 15 years now. Riley for closer to 10. And there's almost always kids there. And we're going to talk advantages, disadvantages. Realistically, this is going to be pretty one-sided conversation. So, and here's why. People love kids. I have a daughter who's 11. Riley has twins that are not even 1 yet. I took my daughter to one wedding ever, and by 9:30, I was so worn out and just mentally exhausted just from trying to make sure that, at whatever age she was, 2 or 3, that she wasn't getting crushed on a dance floor or running out of the room or ruining something or making noise at inappropriate times. I was just ready to leave that wedding at 9:30. And kids at weddings, they're not enjoyable at many a times, and it's usually the least opportune time. So let's start off with your ceremony. So you're having your ceremony, it's inside, you're going through vows, and there's a kid. It could be an infant, it could be a toddler. Your parents are making them try to sit there quiet for 45 minutes to an hour from the time they get there. They're making noise. They could be screaming. At the same time, you've maybe written vows to each other that you're trying to exchange, and this is the background of how you're, delivering your vows. And nobody ever thinks about it for their own wedding. It's not part of the fairy tale. It's never in the Disney movies. But the reality is, kids, when they're present for a ceremony, almost always do something to obstruct it. And I know, and especially grandparents get into this, and parents, children are gifts. And yes, they are gifts, and I love my daughter more than anything. But she, at a certain age, they don't care. They don't care if it's a wedding ceremony, if they're not happy, or if they're hungry, if they're impatient. They're going to cause a scene. And one of the downsides of inviting kids to the wedding is, they can cause a scene. Same thing at receptions. We see kids overtake the dance floor. You've hired us to come in, DJ your event, make all these people dance, and then when we go to open, and actually starting off in dinner during your toast, before your toast, there's 15 kids running circles around your dance floor, swinging each other around, screaming. I got to get them to try to sit down and be quiet during your toast, which is another time where people they just kind of make noise. You wish the people would leave the room with them, their parents, but they don't always. So, it's tricky. And, once the dance starts, it's hard to get a group of adults to come out on the dance floor when all they see are kids just sprinting across the floor. It's not very inviting. And so it's detrimental a lot of times to the dance floor. And in the parents that have those kids probably won't stay as late or have as much fun as they would have if they didn't have their kids there, But you invited the kids. It's easier for them to bring them than maybe it was to get a sitter, So that's some of the downfalls that come to my mind, I guess, when it comes to having kids at the wedding. But we'll see if Riley has anything that I didn't cover.
Well, and Travis, how many times have we had to physically take a kid off of our speaker stands or stop them from rocking our light stands or coming behind our DJ setup, where as a bride and groom have invested money in entertainment, it's amazing how fragile some of these things are in terms of keeping everything going when there's a kid around. They're 1 second away from kicking a cord from the wall that is shutting down the music that's playing. So it's like, how many times have we had to field kids away from our setup?
It's true. Valid point. And on that note, but another thing I thought of is I've seen kids on a first dance, the couple's having their first dance, and the kid just he'll run right out there and just be looking up at the bride and groom, or he starts doing whatever, and you're wondering to yourself, where are these parents? And somebody get this kid out of here. And I'm speaking at this point, I don't have a photographer here to confirm this right now, but I can assure you, if we did, they would tell you the same thing. I mean, people that don't control their kids like you wish they would, and so our suggestion, and the thing I always recommend, or at least bring it up as an option to people, is, we have plenty of weddings we go to, and maybe you've been to one, where they just don't invite the kids to the wedding. And we may do a whole new series on just how to uninvite kids to a wedding, maybe bring in, some of our invitation making friends that have to word these things selectively. But, there are tactful ways to eliminate kids from weddings, and not that we don't like kids, but if this day is going a certain way, and in your mind that way doesn't include screaming children, and it includes a bunch of adults and those friends of yours from high school that have 2 kids now, but they party, but they just can't do it because one of them has to watch the kid all night. Like, there are benefits to it, and for you, the benefits may outweigh the negatives. I mean, you're going to have to deal with. There's going to be some people that turn their nose up at the fact that you're not inviting the kids to it. Who cares? If you can get it through your mind that you're not here to please everybody today, you're going to be so much less stressed you're going to be dealing with if you can do that.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about planning a wedding as a couple. You send out save the dates, 6 months prior to the event date? That's 6 months for these guys to find a babysitter. And I get it, you have cousins, you may have a brother or a sister that has a kid, and that's going to be a very touchy subject. And sometimes there may, not be a way to not have them there. But speaking on behalf of a lot of your friends that have kids or multiple kids that are at this age where they don't understand what no means. I mean, Travis, how many times, even percentage-wise, if there's more than 10 kids at a wedding reception and they're having a toast, everybody's relatively quiet. How many times do we run into this just noise coming from a child where things get awkward very quickly because you can tell a bride is hearing it, the groom is hearing it, the father of the bride who's giving this heartfelt speech is throwing him off because there's 4 kids running on the dance floor. I mean, how often does that happen?
I would say that happens quite often. And it's you always wish, again, you're always expecting that child is going to be like quieted or that they're going to be escorted out of the room. But a lot of times, it's like you can see the parents trying to shush them, and they continue to try to shush them, and they continue to try to shush them. And then they try to hold them in their chair, and then they scream, and then they try to, keep them, whatever. And it's like, I'm thinking, just get them out of the room. Like, this is, it is not what the couple was, and it's not because it annoys me so much. I mean, it does annoy me, but it's more that I feel it's disrespectful to the couple. I think the couple thinks it's disrespectful. But again, the solution is to not invite the kids, and you just have to understand you may have a couple people that don't come because they couldn't bring their kids. That's 2 less people you have to feed, and that's okay. But the benefit to me, if it were my wedding, is I'm going to have a much more enjoyable experience with the people that do come to this event. It's going to be, it's not going to be getting broken up as much. It's not going to be those types of distractions. And at the end of the night, the people that are there aren't going to have the responsibility of having to watch a kid. So my thought is they're going to be having more fun than if they had brought their kids here. And the babysitter thing, like almost everybody can find a sitter that's not going to the wedding. Almost everyone. And so again, I wouldn't think twice about it, but it's because I go to weddings every weekend and get to see how much actually happens, you know. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the realities. The positive part of having a kid at a wedding is when they take cute pictures. You know, that's cool. I mean, you remember that. I mean, you get to see some cute things. But at a certain point, it's just beyond the cuteness. The reality is they're still kids, and they're acting like the same way they would act if they were out, you know, at a restaurant or, you know, at their house playing. They're just trying to be kids, but that is the least your wedding is the least opportune time. It becomes more of an annoyance at your wedding than it would be if it were at their house. But they're doing what they're programmed to do. But you know, it causes a lot of issues at a wedding, especially if the couple has a specific vision on what they wanted to be happening, or how heartfelt a certain thing was going to be, or how intimate, you know, the feeling for dinner was going to be, or whatever. They just change the dynamic quite a bit. So things to consider. You know, share this with anybody you think it might have value to. Put it on your Facebook wall. Comment. Let us know what you want for the next questions. And I think that's it. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode.
Guys.